The phone rang at 2:17 a.m., cutting through the silence of Harrison Blake's penthouse like a blade through silk. He'd been awake anyway, staring at financial reports that blurred together after the 16th hour of work. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, local but not saved in his contacts. For a moment he considered letting it go to voicemail. Nobody called with good news at this hour. But something made him answer. Mr. Blake? This is St. Mary's Hospital calling about Renee Thompson. According to her emergency contact information, you're listed as her primary contact. She's been admitted following a car accident. The words hit him like cold water. Renee. His executive assistant. The woman who organized his life with such precision that he sometimes wondered if she could read his mind. The person who knew his schedule better than he did, who remembered his coffee order and his mother's birthday and which investors hated small talk. Is she? His throat felt tight. Is she okay? She's stable but she's asking for you. Can you come to the hospital? Harrison was already moving, grabbing his keys, his wallet, not bothering to change out of the t-shirt and sweatpants he'd thrown on hours ago. I'm on my way. The drive to St. Mary's took 12 minutes through empty city streets. 12 minutes where Harrison's mind raced through 1,000 questions. Why was he her emergency contact? Where was her family? He knew she had a mother. Renee had mentioned her a few times. She'd taken personal days here and there, always apologizing even though she had plenty of time accrued. He'd never asked why. He'd never pushed. Their relationship was professional, respectful, bounded by appropriate lines. But now those lines felt blurry in the fluorescent hospital lights. The emergency room was quiet at this hour, just the hum of machines and hushed voices of night shift nurses. Harrison approached the desk, gave his name, and was immediately directed to room 7. His heart pounded as he walked down the corridor. What would he find? How badly was she hurt? He pushed open the door carefully. Renee lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than he'd ever seen her. At work, she commanded attention despite her quiet demeanor. She wore sharp blazers in bold colors, carried herself with confidence, spoke with clarity. Here, in a hospital gown with an IV in her arm and a bandage on her forehead, she looked vulnerable. Yeah, scared. Her eyes were closed, but they fluttered open when she heard him enter. For a moment relief flooded her features. Then something else. Shame maybe. Embarrassment. Mr. Blake. Her voice was rough. I'm so sorry. I didn't think they'd actually call you. I should have updated that form. Harrison pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down. Don't apologize. I'm glad I'm here. What happened? Renee looked away, staring at the ceiling. In the harsh hospital light, he could see the exhaustion in her face. Not just from tonight. This was deeper. Older. The kind of tired that came from carrying too much for too long. I fell asleep at the wheel, she said quietly. I hit a guardrail on the highway. The car's totaled, but somehow I'm okay. Just bruises and this. She gestured vaguely at the bandage. They want to keep me for observation because I hit my head. You fell asleep driving. At 2 a.m. Harrison kept his voice gentle, but he needed to understand. Renee, where were you coming from? She closed her eyes again. A single tear slipped down her cheek. My other job. The words hung in the air between them. Your other job, Harrison repeated slowly. You work somewhere else? After leaving the office? 2 other places, actually. Her voice was barely a whisper. I waitress at Joe's Diner from 7 to 11 most nights. Then I do data entry remotely for a company in California from midnight to 3. I was heading home when I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. Harrison felt like he'd been punched. Renee, you work for me from 8 to 6. That's 10 hours. Then you work another 8 hours? Every day. Not every day. Sometimes I skip the data entry on weekends. She laughed, but it was hollow. I know it sounds crazy. But I need the money. Why didn't you tell me? If you needed a raise, we could have discussed it. Your performance has been outstanding. I would have given you one immediately. Renee shook her head, wincing at the movement. It's not about my salary from Blake Enterprises. That's actually generous. It's about my mom. She took a shaky breath and Harrison waited, giving her space, giving her time. My mom has breast cancer. Stage 3. She needs treatment that her insurance won't fully cover. Chemotherapy, radiation, medications that cost more per month than most people make in 3. The doctors say she has a good chance if she gets the right treatment, but good chances cost money. Lots of it. So you've been working 3 jobs to pay for her care. I'm all she has. My dad died when I was 12. No siblings. No other family nearby. Just us. It's always been just us. Renee's voice cracked. She raised me alone, worked 2 jobs herself to put me through college. She never complained. Never made me feel like a burden. Now it's my turn. I can take care of her. Harrison's chest felt tight. He thought about his own mother, gone now for 5 years. Cancer too. He'd been able to afford every treatment, every specialist, every experimental therapy. It hadn't been enough in the end, but he'd never had to choose between his mother's life and financial ruin. How long have you been doing this? He asked. 14 months. Since her diagnosis. 14 months. Over a year of working 18-hour days, pretending everything was fine, showing up at his office with a smile and perfect productivity. He'd never noticed. He'd been so wrapped up in mergers and acquisitions and stock prices that he'd never seen the woman right in front of him struggling to keep her head above water. Before he could respond, a doctor entered the room. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes and an efficient manner. Miss Thompson, I'm Dr. Peters. I've reviewed your scans and test results. The good news is there's no serious brain injury. You have a mild concussion, some bruising, and you're severely sleep-deprived, but nothing that won't heal with rest. Can I go home? Renee asked. I'd like to keep you until morning for observation, just to be safe. You'll need someone to stay with you for the next 24 hours after discharge. No driving for at least a week. Dr. Peters glanced at Harrison. Are you family? I'm her employer, Harrison said, then paused. And her friend. Good. She'll need support. Miss Thompson, you can't keep going like this. Your body is giving you a very clear warning. Another accident like this and you might not be so lucky. After the doctor left, Harrison stood up. Renee looked at him with apprehension. I know what you're going to say, she started. That I need to quit the other jobs. That I'm being irresponsible. But I can't. My mom needs me. Harrison moved closer to the bed. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to tell you that starting tomorrow, things are going to change. I'm going to help you. Mr. Blake, I can't accept. Yes, you can. And you will. His voice was firm but gentle. Renee, you've been helping me for 3 years. You've made my life easier in countless ways. You've saved me time, money, and probably my sanity on more than one occasion. Now it's my turn. Renee's eyes filled with tears. I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's what people do for each other. It's what friends do. Harrison pulled his phone from his pocket. I'm going to make some calls. By morning, your mother will have the best oncologist in the state. We're going to get her into a treatment program that works. And you're going to rest. I can't afford. I can't. And I want to. Please, Renee. Let me help. She looked at him for a long moment. Pride warred with desperation in her eyes. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Harrison smiled, feeling something shift in his chest. Relief. Purpose. Something else he couldn't quite name. Get some rest. I'll be here when you wake up. As Renee's eyes drifted closed, exhaustion finally claiming her, Harrison settled back in the uncomfortable hospital chair. He pulled out his phone and started making a list. Oncologists to call. Treatment centers to research. Ways to help without making Renee feel diminished. Outside the window, the city was still dark. But dawn was coming. And with it, a new beginning neither of them had expected. Have you ever felt so alone that you couldn't ask for help even when you desperately needed it? If Renee's story touched your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you loved ever had to choose between pride and survival? Morning came slowly to room 7. Harrison had dozed in the chair, his neck stiff and his back complaining, but he'd meant what he said. He wasn't leaving Renee alone. She woke around 6, blinking in the pale sunlight filtering through the blinds. For a second she looked confused, then everything came rushing back. Her hand went to the bandage on her forehead. Good morning, Harrison said softly. Renee turned her head, surprise crossing her face. You stayed. I said I would. A nurse came in to check vitals and then Dr. Peters returned with discharge papers. Remember, no driving. Rest as much as possible. Follow up with your primary care physician in a week. She looked at Harrison. Make sure she actually rests. I will, he promised. After the paperwork was complete, Harrison helped Renee into a wheelchair, hospital policy despite her protest that she could walk. He'd already arranged for his driver to bring the car around, and within 20 minutes they were on their way. Where to? His driver Michael asked. Renee gave her address, a modest apartment building in a neighborhood Harrison had never visited. The drive took 30 minutes through morning traffic. Renee was quiet, staring out the window, her fingers twisting together in her lap. When they arrived, Harrison helped her out of the car. The building was older but well-maintained. They took the elevator to the third floor, Renee moving slowly, clearly sore from the accident. Her apartment was small but tidy. One bedroom, a compact kitchen, a living room with a couch and a small TV. Everything was neat, organized, sparse. No expensive electronics. No artwork on the walls. Just the basics. "I'll be fine from here," Renee said, hovering near the door as if expecting him to leave immediately. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Blake." "Harrison," he corrected. "And I'm not leaving yet. You need to eat something." "When did you last have a real meal?" Renee thought about it. "Yesterday morning. I had cereal." Harrison shook his head and pulled out his phone. "I'm ordering food. What do you like?" "You don't have to." "Renee." He looked at her steadily. "We're past that. Please, let me take care of this." She sighed, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "Okay, thank you. Anything is fine." While Harrison ordered from a nearby restaurant that delivered breakfast, Renee excused herself to change out of the clothes she'd worn to the hospital. When she emerged, she wore soft pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back. She looked more herself, more comfortable. They sat at her small kitchen table, waiting for the food. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people trying to figure out what came next. "Tell me about your mom," Harrison said finally. "What's her name?" "Patricia. Patricia Thompson. She's 58. She worked as a school secretary for 30 years. Renee's voice softened. "She's the kindest person I know. After my dad died, she could have fallen apart. Instead, she worked 2 jobs to make sure I had everything I needed. Dance classes, summer camps, a good education. She never made me feel like we were struggling, even though I know we were. She sounds like an amazing woman." "She is. That's why I have to help her now. She deserves the best care, the best chance." Renee's eyes filled with tears again. "But the medical bills keep piling up. Even with insurance, we're drowning. I thought I could manage it. I thought if I just worked hard enough, I could keep us afloat." "Where is she now?" "She's at Riverside Care Facility. It's a nursing home that also handles long-term medical care. She's been there for 6 months since she got too weak to live alone. The staff is nice, but it's not what I wish I could give her." The food arrived and they ate while Renee told Harrison more. About how her mother's symptoms had started, how they'd ignored them at first thinking it was just stress or age. About the diagnosis that had shattered their world. About the choices they'd faced, about insurance denials and appeals and the grinding bureaucracy of healthcare. Harrison listened to every word, his mind already working. He had resources. He had connections. He could make things happen that were impossible for someone like Renee, no matter how hard she worked. "I want to visit her," Harrison said when Renee finished. "Your mom. Is that okay?" Renee looked surprised. "You want to meet her?" "I do. If you're comfortable with it. I'd like to know more about her condition, talk to her doctors, see what we can do to improve her situation. I haven't told her about the accident yet. She worries so much already. Then we'll tell her together. We'll also tell her that things are going to get better." Renee studied his face. "Why are you doing this, Mr. Blake?" "Harrison, you don't owe me anything." Harrison thought about his answer carefully. 3 years ago when you started working for me, I was a mess. I just lost my mother. I was working myself to death trying to outrun grief. You came in and quietly made everything easier. You never pushed. You never asked invasive questions. You just did your job with so much competence and grace that I could function again. You gave me space to heal." He paused, meeting her eyes. "Maybe I never said thank you properly. Maybe I took for granted how much you did. But I've always noticed, Renee. I've always been grateful. Now you need help and I have the ability to give it. That's all this is. One person helping another." Renee nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "Okay. We can visit her this afternoon. Visiting hours start at 2. "Perfect. Until then you're going to rest. Doctor's orders." Harrison helped Renee settle on the couch with pillows and a blanket. He found the remote and handed it to her, then sat in the nearby armchair with his laptop. He had work to do, calls to make, but he wasn't leaving her alone. As Renee dozed, Harrison researched. He found the top oncologists in the region, specialists in breast cancer. He made notes about treatment centers, clinical trials, experimental therapies. He called his personal physician who gave him recommendations. He called his attorney to understand medical power of attorney and insurance issues. By noon he had a plan. When Renee woke, he showed her what he'd found. Dr. Angela Richards is considered one of the best breast cancer specialists in the country. She's at Memorial Hospital downtown. I've reached out to her office. If your mother agrees, I'd like to have her transferred there for a consultation. Renee's hand covered her mouth. Dr. Richards has a 2-year waiting list. She's agreed to see your mother next week. I explained the situation. How did you? I've donated to Memorial's research wing for years. I called in a favor. Harrison leaned forward. Renee, I know you're used to doing everything yourself. I know accepting help feels strange. But your mother needs the best care and you need support. This is not about charity or pity. This is about doing what's right. Renee was crying now, but they were different tears. Relief. Hope. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to thank me. Just let me help. That afternoon, they drove to Riverside Care Facility. Harrison had called ahead, identifying himself and asking to speak with Patricia Thompson's care team. The director of nursing met them at the entrance, suddenly very attentive when she realized who Harrison was. Patricia Thompson was in a shared room on the second floor. She was propped up in bed, reading a magazine, looking tired but alert. When she saw Renee, her face lit up. Baby girl? Then she noticed the bandage. Renee, what happened to your head? Renee moved to her mother's bedside, taking her hand. I'm okay, Mom. Just a little accident. Someone I want you to meet. She gestured to Harrison. This is Harrison Blake. My boss. Harrison, this is my mom, Patricia. Patricia's eyes widened. The Harrison Blake? CEO of Blake Enterprises? Harrison smiled and extended his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Thompson. Renee has told me wonderful things about you. Oh my. Patricia shook his hand, looking between her daughter and Harrison with confusion and curiosity. What brings you here? Over the next hour they explained everything. The accident. Renee's 3 jobs. Harrison's offer to help. Patricia cried, then got angry at Renee for not telling her about the other jobs, then cried again when Harrison explained his plan for her care. I can't let you do this, Patricia said, her voice breaking. We can't accept such generosity from a stranger. You're not a stranger, Harrison said gently. You're the mother of someone who's been invaluable to me. And you raised a daughter who works harder than anyone I know. Let me do this, please. Patricia looked at Renee, who nodded. Mom, I tried to do it all myself. I thought I could. But Harrison is offering us a real chance. The best doctors. The best treatment. Maybe even remission. We have to take it. But the cost is something I can easily afford, Harrison interrupted. Mrs. Thompson, I've been very fortunate in my life. Money is not an issue. Your health is. Your daughter's health is. She's been running herself into the ground trying to take care of you. Let me take care of both of you. Patricia reached for Harrison's hand, squeezing it. You're an angel. Both of you. Yes, I'll accept your help. For Renee's sake, if not my own. Harrison spent another hour talking with Patricia's doctors and the facility director. He explained that she would be transferring to Memorial Hospital for consultation and, if recommended, treatment. He arranged for private transportation and made it clear that all costs would be covered by him personally. Before they left, Patricia pulled Harrison aside. Take care of my girl, she said softly. She gives everything to everyone else. Make sure someone's looking out for her too. I will, Harrison promised. I absolutely will. On the drive back to Renee's apartment, she was quiet again. But this time the silence felt different. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted. Thank you, she said finally. For everything. For believing me. For helping. For not making me feel small. You could never be small, Renee. You're one of the strongest people I know. When they reached her building, Harrison walked her up to her door. Take tomorrow off. Rest. I'll call you tomorrow evening to check in. On Monday we'll talk about some changes at work. Changes? Good changes. I promise. He smiled. Get some sleep, Renee. Real sleep. She nodded, then impulsively hugged him. Harrison stiffened for just a second, then hugged her back, careful of her injuries. Thank you, she whispered again. As Harrison rode the elevator back down, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose beyond business. Connection beyond professional courtesy. He pulled out his phone and texted his assistant at Blake Enterprises to clear his Monday morning. He had plans to make. Plans that would change everything. Monday morning, Harrison arrived at Blake Enterprises earlier than usual. His office took up the entire top floor of the sleek glass building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Normally he felt energized by the view, by the visible proof of what he'd built. Today though, his mind was elsewhere. He'd spent the weekend working on a proposal. Not a business proposal, though he'd approached it with the same thoroughness. This was personal. This was about Renee and Patricia and making sure they both got what they needed. At 9 o'clock his phone buzzed. Renee was downstairs. "Send her up," Harrison told the receptionist. He met Renee at the elevator. She looked better than she had on Friday night, the bandage smaller now, some color back in her cheeks. She wore a blue blouse and black slacks, professional and put together despite everything. "How are you feeling?" Harrison asked as they walked to his office. "Sore but okay. I slept most of the weekend. It felt strange having nothing to do." She managed a small smile. "I kept wanting to check my work email. I disabled your remote access temporarily. Doctor's orders included rest, remember?" Inside his office, Harrison gestured to the comfortable chairs by the window rather than the formal desk setup. He wanted this conversation to feel collaborative, not hierarchical. "I've been thinking about your situation," Harrison began. "Actually, I've been doing more than thinking. I've been planning. But before I tell you what I have in mind, I need you to promise me something." Renee looked wary. "What?" "Promise me you'll listen to the whole proposal before you say no. Can you do that?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. I promise." Harrison pulled out a folder from the side table. Inside were documents he'd had his attorney draft over the weekend. "First, your mother. I've arranged for her transfer to Memorial Hospital tomorrow. Dr. Angela Richards will do a full evaluation on Wednesday. Based on that evaluation, we'll create a treatment plan. Everything will be covered by a medical fund I'm establishing in your mother's name." "A medical fund?" "It's a trust, actually. Set up specifically for Patricia Thompson's medical care. All treatments, medications, follow-ups, everything she needs. It's managed by my financial team, but the money is dedicated solely to her care. You won't have to worry about bills or insurance denials or choosing between treatments based on cost." Renee's eyes filled with tears. "Harrison, that's too much." "You promised to listen to everything," he reminded her gently. "That's just the first part." He pulled out another document. "Second, your employment situation. Effective immediately, you're getting a promotion. You'll become Director of Executive Operations with a salary increase of 60%. Renee's mouth fell open. 60%? "Your responsibilities will expand slightly, but honestly, you've been doing work above your pay grade for years. This is overdue. The raise is based on market value for your actual contributions, not charity." "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything yet. There's more." Harrison pulled out a third document. "I'm also giving you a signing bonus. Consider it compensation for the years you were undervalued. You'll also get full health benefits, naturally, which extend to your mother as your dependent." "A signing bonus?" Renee looked overwhelmed. "And finally," Harrison said, producing a keycard, "Blake Enterprises owns several residential properties downtown. We use them for visiting executives and important clients. One of them, a 2-bedroom apartment 3 blocks from here, is sitting empty. I'd like you to move in. No rent. It's a company benefit." Renee stared at the keycard like it might burn her. "Harrison, I can't accept all this. It's too much. People will think. People will think I'm finally compensating my executive assistant appropriately. Which is exactly what's happening." Harrison leaned forward. "Renee, you've been working 3 jobs. You've been killing yourself. Your mother needs you healthy and present, not exhausted. This way you can focus on one job you're excellent at, live close to work, and have the resources to support your mother's recovery. But the apartment alone must be worth. It's sitting empty anyway. Might as well have someone use it. Plus, there's a practical benefit. You'll be closer for early morning meetings and late night emergencies. It makes sense professionally." Renee looked down at the documents in her lap, tears falling onto the paper. "I've been so scared," she whispered. "Every day I wake up scared. Scared I'll lose my mom. Scared I'll lose my job because I'm so tired I can't think straight. Scared I'll have another accident. Scared I'll never be enough." Harrison moved to the chair beside her, taking her hand. "You are enough. You've always been enough. You don't have to be scared anymore. I've got you. We've got this." "Why?" Renee looked at him, confusion and gratitude mixing in her eyes. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Harrison thought about his answer carefully. "Because I can. Because it's right. Because you deserve it. He paused. And because somewhere along the way you became more than just my assistant. You became someone I care about. Someone I consider a friend. Renee wiped her eyes. I don't have many friends. I haven't had time for friends. You have one now. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation settling around them. Outside the windows, the city bustled with Monday morning energy. Inside, something was shifting. Something important. There's one condition, Harrison added. You have to quit your other 2 jobs. Today. Right now. I need you to promise me you'll never put yourself in that situation again. Renee laughed through her tears. That's the easiest promise I'll ever make. And you have to accept all of this with gratitude and without guilt. Can you do that? She looked at the documents, at the keycard, at Harrison's earnest face. Then she nodded. Yes. Yes, I can. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you for seeing me. For caring. For this incredible generosity. Harrison smiled, relief flooding through him. Good. Now let's make those calls and get you set up in your new place. We have a lot to do. The rest of the morning was a whirlwind. Renee called Joe's diner and gave notice, apologizing for the short timeline but explaining her situation. The manager was understanding, even relieved. She'd been worried about Renee's exhaustion for weeks. The data entry company required just an email. Their turnover was so high they barely blinked. By lunchtime, Renee was officially working only one job. Harrison took her to see the apartment. It was beautiful, modern, with large windows and an open floor plan. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen with stainless steel appliances, a living room with a view of the city. One bedroom was furnished as a guest room, the other empty, ready for Renee to make her own. This is too nice, Renee said, walking through the space with wonder. I've never lived anywhere like this. You'll be living here now. Move in this weekend. If you need help or furniture, let me know. I have furniture. Not much but enough. My friend's brother has a truck. We can make it work. Or you could use Blake Enterprises moving service. It's already paid for as part of the relocation package. Harrison pulled out his phone. I'll have them contact you to schedule a time. Renee laughed. You've thought of everything. I tried. On the drive back to the office, Renee's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her face transformed. Pure joy, pure relief. That was Memorial Hospital, she said when she hung up. They're sending an ambulance for my mom tomorrow at 10 a.m. They want her there for the consultation prep. Dr. Richards wants to run some tests before the actual appointment. That's good. That means they're taking it seriously. Harrison. Renee turned to look at him. I keep waiting to wake up. For this to be a dream. A few days ago I was drowning. Now I have hope. Real hope. It's not a dream. It's real. And it's just the beginning. Back at the office, Harrison introduced Renee to Brenda Walsh, the HR director. Brenda had been briefed on the promotion and walked Renee through all the paperwork, benefits enrollment, and new responsibilities. She also coordinated with IT to set up Renee's new office, a smaller but private space next to Harrison's. You're moving up in the world, Brenda said warmly. Congratulations, Renee. This is well deserved. By the end of the day, Renee had a new title, a new salary, a new apartment, and a new perspective. As they prepared to leave, Harrison stopped her at the elevator. How does it feel? He asked. Renee smiled, and it was the first real, unguarded smile he'd seen from her. It feels like I can breathe again. Like maybe, just maybe, everything is going to be okay. It is, Harrison promised. It absolutely is. That night, Harrison went home to his empty penthouse feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Connected. Useful in a way that had nothing to do with business deals or profit margins. He'd spent so long building his empire, accumulating wealth and success, that he'd forgotten what it felt like to use those resources to directly change someone's life. Felt good. Felt right. And as he stood at his window looking out at the glittering city, Harrison realized that helping Renee was changing him too. Opening something in his chest that had been closed for a long time. Tomorrow, Patricia would start her journey toward healing. And maybe, just maybe, Harrison was starting his own. Wednesday morning arrived with brilliant sunshine streaming through the windows of Memorial Hospital. Harrison had cleared his entire day, something that would have been unthinkable a week ago. Now, sitting in the comfortable waiting area outside Dr. Richards' office, it felt like the only place he should be. Renee sat beside him, dressed in a green dress that brought out the warmth in her brown skin. She'd moved into her new apartment over the weekend, and the change was already visible. She looked rested, less burdened, lighter somehow. You didn't have to come, Renee said for the third time that morning. I know you have important meetings. Nothing's more important than this, Harrison replied simply. The consultation lasted 2 hours. Dr. Richards was thorough, professional, and most importantly, optimistic. She reviewed all of Patricia's scans, her medical history, her current treatment regimen. Then she outlined a new plan. The cancer is aggressive, but it's treatable, Dr. Richards explained, pointing to images on her computer screen. We've had excellent results with a combination of targeted therapy and chemotherapy. I'm also recommending surgery to remove the primary tumor, followed by radiation. It's going to be difficult, but Mrs. Thompson is strong. I think we can beat this. Patricia, sitting in a wheelchair with a blanket across her lap, gripped Renee's hand. You really think so? I do. I'm not going to promise miracles, but I'm very hopeful. We'll start the new treatment protocol next week. I want you to stay here at Memorial until we've got everything stabilized. After the appointment, they moved Patricia to her new room. It was private, spacious, with a view of the hospital's garden. There was a comfortable chair that converted into a bed for overnight visitors, a TV, even a small refrigerator. This is like a hotel, Patricia marveled. I've never had such a nice hospital room. You deserve it, Harrison said. And you'll be here for a while, so you might as well be comfortable. Once Patricia was settled, Renee walked Harrison out to the lobby. They stood by the large windows watching people come and go. I don't know how to repay you, Renee said quietly. You already repay me every day by being excellent at your job. That's all I need. It's more than that now though. Isn't it? Harrison met her eyes. Yes, it is. Over the next 2 weeks, a pattern developed. Harrison visited the hospital daily, sometimes before work, sometimes during lunch, always checking on Patricia's progress. Renee spent every evening there, sitting with her mother through treatments, reading to her, just being present. And Harrison found himself staying longer each visit. At first he told himself it was just to check on Patricia. But he knew better. He enjoyed talking with her, hearing stories about Renee's childhood, about the woman Patricia had raised. He liked making Patricia laugh, bringing her books and magazines, arranging for her favorite foods when she was up to eating. One evening, Harrison arrived to find Renee asleep in the visitor chair, her head at an awkward angle, her hand still holding her mother's. Patricia was awake, watching her daughter with tender concern. She works too hard, Patricia whispered when she noticed Harrison. Even now, with just the one job, she's always doing something. Always taking care of someone. Harrison carefully adjusted a pillow under Renee's head without waking her. She learned that from you. Maybe. Or maybe she just has the biggest heart of anyone I know. Patricia studied Harrison thoughtfully. You do too, you know. A big heart. You hide it behind business suits and boardrooms, but it's there. Harrison sat down across from Patricia. I used to think success meant building the biggest company, making the most money, winning every deal. Then I lost my mother and I realized none of it mattered. None of it filled the space she left. I'm sorry about your mother. Renee mentioned she passed. 5 years ago. Also cancer. I paid for every treatment, saw every specialist. It wasn't enough. Harrison looked at his hands. I threw money at the problem, but money can't fix everything. It can fix a lot though. It's fixing me. Giving me a chance I wouldn't have otherwise. Patricia reached out, taking Harrison's hand. Don't discount what you're doing here. You're not just paying medical bills. You're giving my daughter her life back. You're giving us both hope. That's worth more than all the money in the world. I just wish I'd known sooner. That she was struggling. We're very good at hiding our struggles, Renee and I. Pride, I suppose. The idea that we should handle everything ourselves. Patricia squeezed his hand. But sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing we can do. They talked quietly while Renee slept, about life and loss and the unexpected ways people come into our lives at exactly the right moment. When Renee finally woke, disoriented and embarrassed, she found Harrison and her mother laughing together over a story about Renee's disastrous attempt to bake a birthday cake at age 10. Are you two conspiring against me? Renee asked, rubbing her eyes. Absolutely, Patricia said. I'm telling him all your secrets. I should have known better than to leave you two alone. Harrison stood, stretching. I should head home. But I'll be back tomorrow. You don't have to come every day, Renee protested. I know. I want to. In the parking lot, Harrison sat in his car for a moment before starting the engine. Something was shifting inside him, something he couldn't quite name. He thought about Renee's smile, Patricia's laughter, the way it felt to be part of their small circle. He thought about how empty his penthouse would feel tonight. And he wondered when exactly this had stopped being about helping an employee and started being something else entirely. The next week, Patricia started her intensive treatment. The side effects were harsh. She was nauseated, exhausted, her hair started falling out in clumps. Through it all, Renee was there, and increasingly so was Harrison. He brought ginger tea for the nausea. He arranged for a professional hairstylist to come and give Patricia a beautiful short cut before she lost all her hair, making it a choice rather than just a loss. He sat with Patricia when Renee had to go to work, reading the newspaper aloud, discussing current events, just keeping her company. "You're a good man, Harrison Blake," Patricia told him one afternoon when they were alone. "My daughter is lucky to have you in her life." "I think I'm the lucky one," Harrison replied. "When are you going to tell her?" Harrison looked up sharply. "Tell her what?" Patricia smiled knowingly. "That you love her." Harrison started to deny it, then stopped. Did he love Renee? When had that happened? "I care about her deeply. But she's my employee. It wouldn't be appropriate. Life's too short for appropriate. Trust me, I'm learning that lesson in the most visceral way possible." Patricia's voice was gentle. "I see how you look at her. I see how she looks at you when you're not watching. There's something there, something real. Don't let rules and professional boundaries keep you from happiness. What if I'm wrong? What if I ruin our working relationship? What if she doesn't feel the same way? What if you're right? What if this is your chance at something beautiful? What if you both end up alone because you were too scared to take the risk?" Patricia reached for his hand. "Harrison, you've been so generous with us. So kind. But don't forget to be kind to yourself too. You deserve love. You deserve happiness. Don't talk yourself out of it." That night, Harrison couldn't sleep. He stood at his penthouse windows, looking out at the city lights, thinking about Patricia's words. Thinking about Renee. About the way his heart lifted when he saw her. About how the highlight of his day had become those hospital visits, those conversations, those stolen moments of connection. Was he in love with her? Maybe he was. Maybe he had been for a while and just hadn't let himself acknowledge it. The question was, what was he going to do about it? 3 weeks after Patricia started treatment, Dr. Richards delivered encouraging news. The cancer was responding well. The tumors were shrinking. Surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks out, followed by radiation, but the prognosis was increasingly hopeful. "She's a fighter," Dr. Richards told Renee and Harrison. "And she's got a lot to live for. That makes all the difference." In the hospital room, Patricia was sitting up in bed, looking tired but genuinely happy. She'd lost her hair, but Renee had bought her beautiful scarves in vibrant colors. Today's was a rich maroon that complemented her warm brown skin. "I'm going to make it," Patricia said, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I'm actually going to make it." Renee hugged her mother carefully, both of them crying. Harrison felt his own throat tighten watching them. This was what winning looked like. Not a successful merger or a profitable quarter. Later, in the hospital cafeteria, Harrison and Renee sat with coffee they weren't really drinking. "I need to tell you something," Harrison said. "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I want to run it by you." Renee looked up. "Okay. I want to establish a foundation. A charitable organization focused on helping people with cancer, specifically those who can't afford treatment. I'm thinking we could cover medical costs, provide support services, help people navigate the healthcare system. We could make a real difference." "Harrison, that's wonderful. I want you to help me run it. Not instead of your current job, but in addition. You'd have input on how it's structured, who we help, how we allocate resources. Your experience with your mother, with the system, would be invaluable. Plus, you understand what it's like from the patient-family perspective." Renee's eyes widened. "You want me to help run a charitable foundation? I can't think of anyone better. You're organized, compassionate, and you understand the stakes on a personal level. What do you think?" "I think it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard." "Yes. Absolutely yes." They spent the next hour talking about the foundation, brainstorming ideas, discussing logistics. Harrison pulled out his phone and took notes, already formulating plans. He'd talk to his lawyers tomorrow, start the paperwork, allocate initial funding. As they talked, Harrison found himself watching Renee's face, the animation in her eyes, the passion in her voice. She was beautiful. She'd always been beautiful, but he'd kept that observation locked away, inappropriate for their professional relationship. Now though, the lines were blurring. They were friends. They were collaborators. They were something more than boss and employee, even if he couldn't quite define what. "Harrison." Renee was looking at him curiously. "Did you hear what I said?" Sorry, I was distracted. What were you saying? I asked if you wanted to have dinner. To celebrate. Mom's good news, the foundation, all of it. Unless you have plans? Harrison's heart rate picked up. No plans. Dinner sounds perfect. They chose a quiet restaurant near the hospital, casual but nice, the kind of place where you could actually have a conversation. They ordered food and wine, and for the first time, they weren't talking about work or medical treatments or logistics. They were just talking. Renee told him about her childhood, about growing up without a father but never feeling like anything was missing because her mother was so present. She talked about her dreams of going to law school before medical bills made that impossible. She talked about books she loved, places she wanted to travel, small hopes she'd almost forgotten she had. Harrison shared too. About growing up wealthy but lonely, parents who were always working, boarding schools where he'd never quite fit in. About starting his company at 25 with a loan and a dream, about the years of struggle before success. About his mother's illness and death, and how it had hollowed him out. I threw myself into work after she died, Harrison admitted. It was easier than feeling. Easier than acknowledging the emptiness. I built my company into an empire, but I was miserable. I didn't even realize how miserable until recently. What changed? Harrison met her eyes. You. Meeting your mother. Being reminded that there's more to life than profit margins and stockholder meetings. Remembering what it feels like to connect with people, to matter in someone's life beyond business transactions. Renee reached across the table, taking his hand. You matter, Harrison. You've always mattered. You just forgot for a while. The touch sent electricity through him. Her hand was warm, her fingers gentle. He turned his palm up, lacing their fingers together. Renee, I need to ask you something. It might be inappropriate, and if it is, please tell me and we'll forget I ever said anything. She looked nervous but didn't pull her hand away. What is it? Are you happy? At Blake Enterprises, I mean. With your new position, your new life. Is this what you want? It's more than I ever dreamed of having. Why do you ask? Because I want to make sure you're there because you want to be, not because you feel obligated. Not because I've helped your mother and now you owe me. Renee squeezed his hand. I don't feel obligated. I feel grateful, yes, but not obligated. I love my job. I love working with you. I love feeling like I'm making a difference, especially with the foundation. This is exactly where I want to be. Good. That's good. Harrison paused, gathering courage. Because I've come to value our relationship deeply. Your friendship means a great deal to me. It means a lot to me too. They finished dinner, the conversation flowing easily, comfortably. When they left the restaurant, Harrison walked Renee to her car. The night air was cool, the city alive with late evening energy. Thank you for tonight, Renee said. For everything. For being here through all of this. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. They stood there, close enough that Harrison could smell her perfume, something light and floral. For a moment he thought about kissing her. About closing the distance between them and finding out if she felt this pull too. But he didn't. Not yet. Not when so much was still uncertain, when her mother was still sick, when their professional relationship was still a factor. Good night, Renee, he said instead. Good night, Harrison. He watched her drive away, then got into his own car. On the drive home his phone rang. It was his sister, calling from Seattle. Hey stranger, she said. Haven't heard from you in weeks. What's going on? Harrison smiled. Actually, I have a lot to tell you. He talked the whole drive, telling his sister about Renee, about Patricia, about the foundation, about how his life had changed in just a few short weeks. His sister listened, asked questions, and finally said the thing he'd been thinking but hadn't acknowledged. You're in love with her. Maybe, Harrison admitted. Probably. Yes. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know. Wait for the right moment, I guess. Make sure she's interested. Make sure I'm not misreading signals. Harrison, you're not in a boardroom. You don't need a strategy. Just tell her how you feel. What if it ruins everything? What if it makes everything better? After they hung up, Harrison sat in his car in the parking garage thinking. His sister was right. His mother had taught him to be bold in business. Maybe it was time to be bold in love too. Tomorrow he'd start planning. Not a business plan. A different kind of plan. One that involved vulnerability and honesty and the terrifying possibility of rejection. But also the possibility of something beautiful. Patricia's surgery was scheduled for a Thursday morning in early May. Renee took the day off and Harrison cleared his calendar. They arrived at the hospital before dawn, both nervous, both trying to project confidence for Patricia's sake. I'm not scared, Patricia said as they prepped her for surgery. She was lying, they could all tell, but they played along. "You're the bravest person I know," Renee said, holding her mother's hand. "You've got the best surgeon in the state," Harrison added. Dr. Richards handpicked her. "You're in excellent hands." Patricia looked at them both, her eyes moving between her daughter and the man who'd become such an important part of their lives. "Promise me something. Both of you. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll take care of each other." "Mom, don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "I know, baby. But promise me anyway." "We promise," Harrison said firmly. "But you're going to be around to hold us to it." The surgery took 6 hours. Harrison and Renee waited in the surgical family lounge, a comfortable space with couches, a TV playing quietly in the corner, magazines no one was reading. Other families waited too, all of them bound by anxiety and hope. Renee couldn't sit still. She paced, got coffee she didn't drink, stared out the window at the city below. Harrison stayed close, not hovering, just present. "Tell me something," Renee said suddenly. "Tell me something I don't know about you. Distract me." Harrison thought for a moment. "I was engaged once. Years ago, before I started the company." Renee turned to look at him. "You were? What happened?" "Her name was Jennifer. We met in college, dated for 3 years. I proposed the week after graduation. We planned this elaborate wedding, invited 200 people, the whole thing." Harrison paused, remembering. 2 weeks before the wedding she called it off. Said she didn't want to be married to someone who cared more about work than about her. She wasn't wrong. "I'm sorry. I'm not. Not anymore. We wanted different things. She wanted a partner who'd be home for dinner every night, who'd prioritize family over career. I wanted to build something to prove I could succeed without my family's money. Neither of us was wrong. We just weren't right for each other." "Do you still talk to her?" "She's married now, has 3 kids, lives in Connecticut. We exchange Christmas cards. I'm happy for her. She got what she wanted." Harrison looked at Renee. "And I'm realizing that maybe I want something different now than I did then." Before Renee could respond, a nurse appeared. "Family of Patricia Thompson?" They both jumped up. "That's us," Renee said. "The surgery went very well. Dr. Chen was able to remove the entire tumor with clean margins. Mrs. Thompson is in recovery now. She'll be there for about 2 hours, then moved to ICU for overnight observation. You can see her once she's settled in her room." Relief flooded through both of them. Renee started crying and Harrison pulled her into a hug. She buried her face in his shoulder, her body shaking with sobs that were part fear, part relief, part exhaustion. "She's okay," Harrison murmured. "She's going to be okay." They held each other for a long moment, right there in the middle of the waiting room, not caring who saw. When Renee finally pulled back, she looked up at him with red eyes and a watery smile. "Sorry? I got your shirt wet." "I don't care about the shirt." 2 hours later, they were allowed into Patricia's ICU room. She was groggy from anesthesia, hooked up to monitors and in 4, but she was smiling. "Did we win?" she asked, her voice slurred. "We won," Renee confirmed, kissing her mother's forehead. "Clean margins. The tumor is gone. Best news ever." Patricia's eyes drifted closed, then opened again. "Harrison still here?" "I'm here," Harrison said, stepping closer to the bed. "Good man. Keep him, Renee." Renee blushed. "Mom, you're high on pain medication." "I know what I'm saying. Keep him." Patricia squeezed Harrison's hand. "And you keep her. You two are good together. Don't be stupid about it." After Patricia drifted back to sleep, Renee and Harrison retreated to the family lounge. It was late afternoon now, golden light streaming through the windows. "Sorry about that," Renee said. "The medication makes her very direct." "She's right though." Renee looked at him. "About what?" Harrison took a breath, knowing this was his moment. Patricia had opened the door. "You just had to walk through it." "About us being good together. Renee, these past few weeks they've been the best weeks I've had in years. Not despite the stress and the worry, but because I got to spend them with you. Because I got to know you, really know you beyond just work." "Harrison. Let me finish. Please." He moved closer to her. "I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss and there are professional considerations and power dynamics to worry about. But I can't keep pretending that what I feel for you is just friendship or professional respect. It's more than that. You're more than that." Renee's eyes were wide, searching his face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I care about you. Deeply. I'm saying that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in years. I'm saying that helping your mother has been the most meaningful thing I've done with my wealth, But even more meaningful is the relationship I've built with you. Harrison reached for her hand. I'm saying that I'm falling in love with you, Renee. Maybe I already have. Do you believe in love that grows from kindness? In relationships built on trust, respect, and genuine care? If this story is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think will happen next. Renee's hand trembled in his. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now. I just needed you to know. No pressure, no expectations. Your mother is recovering, you're dealing with a lot. I needed to be honest. Harrison, Renee paused, tears forming in her eyes again. I feel it too. I've been feeling it for weeks, but I didn't think. You're you. Successful, wealthy, you could have anyone. Why would you want me? Because you're you. Because you're strong and kind and dedicated. Because you make me laugh. Because you see me as a person, not just a bank account or a business opportunity. Harrison cupped her face gently. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to hope for something beyond the next deal or the next quarter. Renee leaned into his touch. I'm scared. What if this changes everything? What if it doesn't work out? What if people at work think I only got promoted because? Then we'll handle it. Together. We'll be transparent, professional, ethical. I'll have you move to a different department if needed, report to someone else. We'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Harrison smiled. But Renee, I don't want to let fear stop us from something that could be amazing. Neither do I, she whispered. Harrison leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't. She met him halfway, their lips touching in a kiss that was gentle, tender, full of promise. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. This is crazy, Renee said. Good crazy. But crazy. The best things usually are. They spent the rest of the evening at the hospital, taking turns sitting with Patricia, talking in the lounge, stealing kisses when no one was looking. It felt like a beginning, like the start of something neither of them had been looking for but both needed. At midnight, Harrison drove Renee home. He walked her up to her apartment, and at her door she turned to face him. Thank you for today. For being here. For saying what you said. Thank you for listening. For giving this a chance. I should tell you I'm not very good at this. Dating, I haven't had time for relationships. I'm probably going to mess up. Harrison smiled. I'm not very good at it either. We'll figure it out together. One more kiss, sweet and lingering, and then Harrison forced himself to leave. He drove home feeling lighter than air, hope and happiness bubbling up inside him. His phone buzzed with a text from Renee. Thank you for today. For everything. I think I'm falling for you too. Harrison saved the message, smiling like an idiot, and for the first time in years he went to sleep genuinely excited about the future. Patricia was released from the hospital after a week in recovery. Dr. Richards was thrilled with her progress. The surgery had been a success, and the follow-up radiation would just be a precaution. The prognosis went from hopeful to genuinely optimistic. I'm calling it now, Dr. Richards said during the discharge meeting. You're going to be cancer-free within 6 months. You've responded incredibly well to treatment. Patricia cried happy tears, hugging Renee, thanking everyone in sight. When her eyes landed on Harrison, who'd become a constant presence during her recovery, she pulled him into a hug too. You saved my life, she said simply. The doctor saved your life. I just helped with the logistics. No. You gave me hope when I didn't have any. You gave my daughter a future that wasn't drowning in debt and exhaustion. You saved both of us. Harrison blinked back his own tears, not trusting his voice. Patricia came home to Renee's new apartment, which had a proper guest room for her to recover in. The first few days were an adjustment. Patricia needed help with basic tasks, tired easily, was still dealing with side effects. But she was home, she was healing, and that was what mattered. Harrison visited every evening after work, sometimes bringing dinner, sometimes just coming to sit and talk. He'd become part of their small family unit so naturally that it felt like he'd always been there. One Saturday afternoon, Patricia asked Harrison to take a walk with her in the park near the apartment. Her strength was returning, and the doctors encouraged gentle exercise. They walked slowly, Patricia's arm linked through Harrison's for support, enjoying the spring sunshine and the bloom of flowers. I need to talk to you, Patricia said. About you and my daughter. Okay, Harrison said carefully. I'm not stupid. I see how you look at each other. I see the way she lights up when you walk in a room. The way you find excuses to touch her hand, brush past her, be near her. Patricia smiled. I'm happy about it. I want you to know that. You're exactly the kind of man I hoped she'd find someday. I love her, Harrison said simply. I know it's fast and I know there are complications, but I love her. Love isn't always reasonable or convenient. Sometimes it just is. Patricia patted his arm. But I need to tell you something. Renee has spent her whole life taking care of other people. Taking care of me specifically. She put her dreams on hold, her education, her own life. She became my caretaker when she should have been living her own story. I know. She told me. What I'm trying to say is, don't let her do that with you too. Don't let her make herself small to fit into your life. Challenge her. Encourage her. Make sure she's pursuing her own dreams, not just supporting yours. I will, Harrison promised. Actually, I have an idea about that. Something I wanted to run by you first. Oh. Before all this happened, Renee mentioned she'd wanted to go to law school. That was her dream before your medical bills made it impossible. I'd like to help make that dream possible again. Pay for her education if she wants it. Support her through school. Patricia stopped walking, turning to look at him with shining eyes. You'd do that? I'd like to. She wants it. If you think she'd accept the help. She'll resist at first. She always does. But Harrison, that would change her life. She was heartbroken when she had to give up that dream. They continued walking, talking about Renee's future, about possibilities and opportunities. By the time they returned to the apartment, Harrison had a plan forming. That evening he asked Renee to have dinner with him. Just the two of them at a nice restaurant downtown. Renee dressed in a blue dress that made Harrison's heart skip, and they drove into the city holding hands. Over dinner, Harrison brought up the subject carefully. I've been thinking about your future. About what you want beyond working for me. I'm happy where I am, Renee said. I know. But you mentioned once that you'd wanted to go to law school. Is that still something you'd be interested in? Renee's expression became guarded. That was a long time ago. Before everything changed. But what if it didn't have to be just a dream? What if you could go back to school, pursue that degree? The foundation work could be part-time, flexible around classes. You could still be involved without it being your full-time job. Harrison Law School is expensive. 3 years of tuition, books, living expenses. I can't afford that. But I can. I want to help. Renee put down her fork. You've already done so much. You've paid for my mother's treatment, given me a promotion, provided housing. I can't ask you to pay for law school too. You're not asking. I'm offering. Renee, you're brilliant. You'd make an amazing lawyer. You have the mind for it, the dedication, the passion for justice. Why shouldn't you pursue that? Because it feels like too much. Like I'm taking advantage of your generosity. Harrison reached across the table, taking her hand. What if I told you that seeing you pursue your dreams would make me happy? That supporting you, helping you reach your potential, is something I want to do? Not because I have to, not because I expect anything in return, but because I love you. Renee's eyes widened. He'd said it. Out loud. No takebacks now. You love me? I do. I love you, Renee Thompson. I love your strength, your kindness, your determination. I love the way you make me want to be a better person. I love how you've changed my life. Harrison squeezed her hand. Let me help you achieve your dreams. Please. It would be my privilege. Tears streamed down Renee's face. I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid it was too soon or too complicated, but I do. I love you, Harrison. Then say yes. Say you'll let me do this for you. Renee wiped her eyes, laughing and crying at the same time. Okay. Yes. I'll apply to law school. I'll pursue this dream. But only if we do it right. I want to maintain my job until I start school. I want to pay you back somehow, maybe work for the foundation's legal team after I graduate. I want this to be a partnership, not a handout. Deal? Harrison agreed immediately. A partnership. Always. They finished dinner in a happy glow, planning Renee's future, talking about which school she'd apply to, what she'd specialize in. Harrison had never felt more certain about anything in his life. After dinner they walked through the city, hands linked, talking and dreaming. When Harrison drove Renee home, he walked her to her door like he had every night since they'd confessed their feelings. Mom's inside, Renee said. So just a quick goodnight kiss. Harrison smiled and obliged, pulling her close for a kiss that was anything but quick. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Renee laughed. That was not quick. Sorry? Got carried away. Don't apologize. Renee touched his face gently. I'll see you tomorrow? Absolutely. Inside the apartment, Patricia was waiting on the couch, a knowing smile on her face. How was dinner? Amazing. Mom, Harrison offered to pay for law school. He wants me to go back to pursue that dream. Patricia stood up, pulling Renee into a hug. That's wonderful, baby. That's the best news. He said he loves me. Of course he does. Anyone with eyes can see that. I told him I love him too. Even better. Patricia held her daughter at arm's length, studying her face. You're glowing. I haven't seen you this happy in years. I'm happy. For the first time in so long, I'm genuinely happy. I have you healthy and healing. I have a job I love. I have Harrison. I get to go back to school and pursue my dream. It feels too good to be true. It's not too good. It's exactly what you deserve. Patricia hugged her again. Hold on to this, baby. Hold on to him. Don't let fear or doubt steal this joy. That night, Renee lay in bed, her mind too active for sleep. Everything was changing so fast. A month ago, she'd been drowning, hopeless, exhausted. Now she had a future bright with possibility. Her phone buzzed with a text from Harrison. Can't stop thinking about you. Sweet dreams. Renee smiled and texted back. Sweet dreams to you too. I love you. 3 little words that changed everything. 3 little words that promised a future neither of them had imagined. 3 little words that felt like coming home. 2 months passed in a blur of happiness. Patricia continued to heal, growing stronger each week. Dr. Richards confirmed what they'd all hoped. The cancer was in remission. Patricia would need regular checkups and monitoring, but she'd beaten it. Renee had applied to 3 law schools and was waiting to hear back. She'd taken the LSAT and scored impressively, her applications were strong, and Harrison had written her a glowing recommendation from her employer's perspective. The foundation, which they'd named Hope Rising, was taking shape. Harrison had hired a small staff, set up the legal structure, and begun accepting applications from families who needed help with cancer treatment costs. Renee worked with the team part-time, using her personal experience to shape their approach. And their relationship deepened. They were careful at work, professional and appropriate. But outside the office they were together constantly. Dinners, movies, long walks, quiet evenings at Harrison's penthouse or Renee's apartment. They talked about everything, learned each other's quirks and preferences, built a foundation of friendship alongside the romance. Harrison had never been happier. One Saturday in late June, Harrison planned something special. He'd arranged for a company retreat at a resort 3 hours outside the city. The entire Blake Enterprises leadership team would be there for a weekend of planning, team building, and strategy sessions. Renee was included, of course, as Director of Executive Operations. They'd have to maintain professional distance in front of everyone, but Harrison had booked adjoining rooms. After hours they could be together. The resort was beautiful, nestled in mountains with a lake view. Everyone arrived Friday afternoon, and Harrison kicked off the weekend with a welcome reception. Dinner followed, then team-building activities that were actually fun rather than the usual corporate torture. By 10 o'clock, people were drifting off to their rooms. Harrison caught Renee's eye and gave her a subtle nod. 5 minutes later, he heard the knock on the adjoining door. "Hi," Renee said when he opened it, smiling. She'd changed into comfortable clothes, her hair down, her face relaxed. "Hi yourself. Come in." They settled on the couch by the window, looking out at the moonlight on the lake. Harrison had ordered champagne, 2 glasses waiting. "What are we celebrating?" Renee asked. This. Everything." Harrison poured the champagne and handed her a glass. 6 months ago I was just going through the motions. Work home. No real connections, no joy. Then you came crashing into my life, literally, with that late-night hospital call. Best car accident I ever had, Renee joked. I'm serious. You changed everything for me. You reminded me what matters. Connection. Well, using my resources to actually help people, not just accumulate more wealth. Renee set down her glass and moved closer to him. You changed everything for me too. You saved my mother's life. You gave me my life back. You showed me what it feels like to be loved, supported, seen for who I really am. Harrison pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. I need to tell you something. I've been holding back, trying to take things slow, but I can't anymore. What is it? I love you, Renee. Not just the surface feelings. Deep bone-deep love. The kind where I can't imagine my future without you in it. Where the thought of losing you terrifies me. Where I wake up every morning grateful that you exist. Renee pulled back to look at him, tears in her eyes. Harrison. I know we haven't been together that long by traditional standards. I know some people will say it's too fast. But when you know, you know. And I know. You're it for me. You're my person. You're my person too, Renee whispered. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for this to be too good to be true. Nothing's going wrong. We're building something real, something lasting. Harrison cupped her face in his hands. I want a future with you. I want to support your dreams, celebrate your successes, be there through challenges. I want to meet you at the end of every day and know that home is wherever you are. Renee kissed him, deep and passionate, pouring everything she felt into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. I want that too. All of it. With you. They spent hours talking, planning, dreaming. About Renee's law school future, about the foundation's growth, about maybe moving in together once Patricia was fully recovered and independent. About trips they wanted to take, experiences they wanted to share. What about work? Renee asked eventually. How do we handle this professionally? People are going to talk. I've been thinking about that. I want to do this right, ethically. I'm going to talk to HR on Monday. We'll disclose our relationship formally. I'll have you report to someone else, probably Brenda in HR for now, until we figure out a better structure. I'll also make sure it's clear to everyone that your promotion and success are based entirely on merit. People will still gossip. Let them. Anyone who actually works with you knows you're brilliant and hardworking. Your results speak for themselves. Harrison took her hand. But if you're worried about it, if you want to look for a position at another company, I'll understand and support that too. I never want you to feel trapped or like your career is limited by our relationship. I don't want to leave Blake Enterprises. I love my job. I love the foundation work. I just want to make sure we do this right, that we're above reproach. We will be transparent, ethical, professional. Our personal relationship won't affect business decisions. And if anyone has concerns, they can come directly to me. The next morning at breakfast, Harrison pulled Brenda Walsh aside. She was the HR director, someone he trusted implicitly, and he needed her guidance. I need to disclose something, Harrison said. Renee Thompson and I are in a relationship. It developed over the past couple of months, and I want to make sure we handle it properly from an HR perspective. Brenda smiled. I'd wondered if something was going on. You've both seemed happier lately. We want to be transparent about it. I'm thinking Renee should report to you instead of directly to me to avoid any conflict of interest concerns. That makes sense. I'll also recommend we do a compensation review with an outside consultant to verify that her promotion and salary are market appropriate. Not because I doubt you, but because it will protect both of you from accusations of favoritism. Perfect. Whatever you think is best. Harrison, can I speak candidly? Always. Renee is excellent at her job. Her promotion was well-deserved based on her work quality, not on any personal relationship. Anyone who works with her knows that. But I'm glad you're taking this seriously and doing it by the book. It shows respect for her and for the company culture. She's important to me. I won't let office gossip or politics damage her reputation. That afternoon, during a break in the retreat schedule, Harrison addressed the leadership team. Renee stood beside him, nervous but determined. I wanted to share some personal news, Harrison began. Renee and I are in a relationship. We've disclosed this to HR and are taking appropriate steps to ensure there's no conflict of interest. Her reporting structure is changing, and her compensation has been independently verified as appropriate for her role and performance. I want to be transparent about this because I respect all of you and this company's culture. There was a moment of surprised silence, then genuine smiles and congratulations from around the room. Most people seemed unsurprised, a few mentioned they'd suspected something. The general reaction was positive, supportive. I'm happy for you both, said Thomas Chin, the CFO. You deserve happiness, Harrison. And Renee, you're a valuable part of this team. Congratulations. Others echoed the sentiment. By the end of the day, the news had spread through the company, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. There were a few skeptics, a few raised eyebrows, but nothing hostile. That night, back in their adjoining rooms, Renee collapsed on Harrison's couch with relief. That went better than I expected, she admitted. I told you. People who know you respect you. Your work stands on its own. Still, I was nervous. What if people thought I slept my way to the top or something? Then they'd be idiots and we'd prove them wrong with your continued excellence. Harrison sat beside her, pulling her close. You've got nothing to worry about. You're talented, hardworking, and completely deserving of everything you've achieved. Renee snuggled into his side. Thank you for handling that so well. For protecting me. Always. I'll always protect you, stand up for you, have your back. And I'll do the same for you. They fell asleep that way, wrapped around each other, secure in their love and their future. Outside, the mountain night was peaceful, stars bright in the clear sky. Tomorrow they'd return to the city, to real life, to the daily work of building their relationship alongside their careers. But tonight they had this perfect moment. And it was more than enough. Despite the generally positive response to their relationship disclosure, not everything was smooth sailing. 3 weeks after the company retreat, Harrison started noticing subtle problems. Renee was being excluded from certain meetings. Colleagues who used to seek her input were going around her. There were whispers in the hallways that stopped when she approached. Harrison first learned about it from Brenda Walsh, who called him into her office one Tuesday afternoon. "We have a situation," Brenda said, closing her door. "Nothing critical, but it needs to be addressed." "What's going on?" "Some employees, particularly in the executive suite, are uncomfortable with Renee's position. They're worried about favoritism, about decisions being influenced by your relationship. A few have expressed concern that she has unfair access to you and company information." Harrison felt anger rise in his chest. Her access is appropriate for her role. She's director of executive operations. Of course she has information access. I know that and you know that. But perception matters. I've also heard that Mark Stevens in finance has been making snide comments about Renee's promotion. Mark Stevens. Mid-level executive, been with the company for 8 years, always angling for advancement. Harrison had never particularly liked him, but he was competent enough. What kind of comments? Implying that she got her position through the relationship rather than merit. Suggesting that other employees are at a disadvantage. Nothing actionable yet, but it's creating a toxic undercurrent. Set up a meeting with the executive team. Tomorrow morning. Everyone who reports directly to me. We're addressing this head-on. The next morning, Harrison walked into the conference room to find his senior leadership waiting. 12 people, all high performers, all critical to Blake Enterprises' success. He'd carefully built this team over years. He respected them, trusted them. But respect went both ways. "Thank you all for coming," Harrison began, standing at the head of the table. "I'm going to be blunt. It's come to my attention that there are concerns about my relationship with Renee Thompson and how it might affect business decisions or create unfair advantages. I want to address those concerns directly." He could see a few people shift uncomfortably. Good. They should be uncomfortable. First, let me be clear about something. Renee's promotion to Director of Executive Operations had nothing to do with our personal relationship. She was promoted before we started dating. Her compensation has been independently verified by an outside firm as appropriate for her role and performance. She reports to Brenda, not to me, eliminating any direct supervisory conflict. Harrison made eye contact with each person at the table. Second, I take conflict of interest very seriously. I always have. If any of you have specific concerns about a decision I've made or a situation where you believe favoritism occurred, I want to hear about it. Bring it to me or to Brenda. We'll address it immediately. He paused, letting that sink in. But what I will not tolerate is gossip, innuendo, or disrespect toward Renee or any other employee. She has earned her position through excellent work over 3 years. If you can't see that, if you're so focused on her relationship with me that you can't recognize her talent, then perhaps you need to reevaluate your own judgment. The room was silent. Thomas Chin, the CFO, spoke first. "Harrison, I don't think anyone here doubts Renee's capabilities. She's been instrumental in several successful projects. The concern is more about perception, about how it looks to the broader company. Then we control that perception through transparency and continued excellent work. Renee will continue to succeed based on her merit. Our relationship is disclosed, managed appropriately, and separate from business operations. What else can I do?" "Nothing," said Sharon Rodriguez, the head of marketing. "You've handled it exactly right. I think most of us are fine with it. There are always going to be people who gossip or create drama. That's not on you or Renee. Mark Stevens has been the main source of negativity," Brenda added. "He's made several inappropriate comments." "Then Mark and I will have a private conversation," Harrison said firmly. "Anyone else have concerns they want to raise now?" Silence. Then nods around the table. "Good. Because Renee Thompson is a valuable member of this company, relationship or not. I expect everyone here to treat her with the same respect you'd treat any colleague at her level. Clear?" "Clear," came the chorus of responses. After the meeting, Harrison called Mark Stevens to his office. The man arrived looking defensive, clearly aware he'd been the subject of discussion. "Sit down, Mark." Mark sat, crossing his arms. If this is about Renee Thompson, I have a right to express concerns. You have a right to express professional concerns through appropriate channels. You don't have a right to spread gossip or make disrespectful comments about a colleague's promotion. Harrison leaned forward. I'm going to say this once. Renee's promotion was merit-based. Her compensation is market-appropriate. Her access and responsibilities align with her role. If you have evidence to the contrary, present it now. Otherwise, the gossip stops. It's just unusual, that's all. Boss dates his assistant. Suddenly she's making double her salary. She's not my assistant. She's the director of executive operations. She was promoted based on her performance before we started dating. And her salary increase is appropriate for that role. Harrison's voice was cold. You've been with this company 8 years, Mark. You're good at your job. But you're not irreplaceable. Neither am I. Neither is Renee. We all succeed or fail based on our contributions. I understand. Do you? Because if I hear one more snide comment, one more attempt to undermine Renee's position, you'll be looking for a new job. I don't tolerate toxic behavior in my company. I don't care how senior you are. Mark's face flushed. That's clear. Good. Now get back to work. After Mark left, Harrison sat at his desk, his hands shaking slightly with residual anger. He hated confrontation, but some things couldn't be ignored. Renee had worked too hard to have her accomplishments diminished by jealousy or small-mindedness. That evening, Harrison drove to Renee's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at his face and pulled him inside. What happened? He told her everything. The meeting, the confrontation with Mark, the concerns about perception and gossip. As he talked, Renee's expression shifted from concern to resignation. Maybe I should look for another job, she said quietly. This isn't fair to you or to the company. No. Harrison took her hands. Absolutely not. You're not leaving because a few people can't handle their own insecurities. You've earned your place at Blake Enterprises. But if it's causing problems, then we solve the problems. Together. We don't run away from them. Harrison pulled her close. I meant what I said at the company retreat. I love you. I'm committed to you. And I'm committed to making sure your career isn't negatively impacted by our relationship. Renee rested her head on his chest. I just don't want to be a problem. You're not a problem. You're the solution. You make everything better. Harrison kissed the top of her head. Trust me, okay? We'll get through this. Over the next few weeks, things slowly improved. Harrison made a point of praising Renee's work publicly when appropriate, making clear that her contributions were valuable and recognized. He also made sure to give credit where due to other team members, showing he wasn't playing favorites. Brenda conducted the independent compensation review and presented the results to the executive team. Renee's salary was actually slightly below market rate for someone with her responsibilities and experience. Harrison immediately corrected that, giving her another small raise that was documented and justified. Mark Stevens became noticeably quieter, doing his job but keeping his opinions to himself. A few others who'd been skeptical started coming around as they worked with Renee more and saw her competence firsthand. 1 month after the confrontation, Sharon Rodriguez from marketing approached Harrison. I owe you and Renee an apology, Sharon said. I was one of the skeptics. I thought maybe the promotion was influenced by personal feelings. But I've worked closely with her on the Hope Rising campaign and she's brilliant. Creative, organized, thoughtful. She earned that position 10 times over. I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad you found happiness, Harrison. You deserve it. And Renee is clearly good for you. By August, the drama had mostly died down. The company adjusted to the new reality of their relationship, and work continued smoothly. Renee excelled in her role, the foundation was helping its first families, and Patricia was officially declared cancer-free. One evening as they sat in Harrison's penthouse watching the sunset, Renee turned to him. We made it through, she said. The gossip, the doubts, the obstacles. We made it. I never doubted we would. I did. Sometimes. But you were right. Together, we can handle anything. Harrison pulled her close, kissing her softly. Together we can handle everything. Now and always. Outside the windows, the city lit up as night fell. Inside, two people who'd found each other against all odds held tight to their love, their hope, and their shared future. The hardest part was behind them. Now came the best part. Building a life together. 6 months later, December arrived with the first snowfall of winter. Blake Enterprises was hosting its annual charity gala, a black tie event that raised money for various causes. This year, Hope Rising was one of the featured beneficiaries. Renee had been accepted to Columbia Law School and would start in January. She'd chosen to attend part-time while continuing to work with the foundation, a schedule that would be demanding but manageable with Harrison's support. Patricia had moved into her own small house, paid for by Harrison despite her protests, and was working part-time as a volunteer coordinator at a cancer support center. She was healthy, happy, and constantly telling anyone who would listen about her brilliant daughter and her generous, loving boyfriend. Everything had fallen into place so perfectly that sometimes Renee still had to pinch herself. The night of the gala, Renee wore a stunning red dress that Harrison had insisted on buying her. She'd argued, of course, but he'd won by pointing out that as one of the foundation's co-founders, she needed to look the part. "You're beautiful," Harrison said when he picked her up, his eyes full of love and admiration. "You're not so bad yourself," Renee replied, straightening his bow tie. The gala was held in a grand hotel ballroom, decorated with twinkling lights and elegant centerpieces. 500 guests attended, including business leaders, philanthropists, and families who'd been helped by Hope Rising. Harrison gave a speech about the foundation's first year, about the 12 families they'd been able to help, about the lives saved and futures secured. He spoke about how personal experience had shown him the importance of accessible healthcare and support for families facing cancer. Then he invited Renee to the stage. She spoke about her mother's illness, about the terror and helplessness of watching someone you love fight for their life, about working 3 jobs and still not having enough, about the moment Harrison had offered help and how accepting that help had changed everything. "Hope Rising exists because kindness matters," Renee said, her voice strong and clear. "Because when we have more than we need, it's our responsibility to help those who have less. Because no family should have to choose between medical care and financial ruin. Because love and hope should always lead." The applause was thunderous. Several people were crying, including Patricia, who sat at a front table beaming with pride. After the speeches, the orchestra began playing, and couples moved to the dance floor. Harrison took Renee's hand. "Dance with me? Always." They moved together easily, naturally, having become so attuned to each other over the past year. As they swayed to the music, Harrison pulled her closer. "Renee, I need to tell you something." "That sounds serious." "It is. The most serious." Harrison stopped dancing right there in the middle of the floor and dropped to one knee. Renee's hands flew to her mouth. Around them, people stopped to watch, a circle forming. "Renee Thompson, you came into my life when I needed you most. You showed me what really matters. You made me want to be better, do better, love better. You're my partner, my best friend, my home." Harrison pulled a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving how much I love you?" Renee was crying, nodding, unable to speak for a moment. Finally she managed, "Yes. Yes, Harrison. Of course, yes." Harrison slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss as the ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. The orchestra, reading the room perfectly, launched into a joyful, soaring melody. Patricia was the first to reach them, crying and laughing, hugging them both. "My babies," she kept saying. "My beautiful babies." The rest of the evening was a blur of congratulations, champagne toasts, and happy tears. Renee couldn't stop looking at her ring, couldn't stop smiling, couldn't believe this was her life now. Later, when most guests had left and they had a moment alone on the hotel balcony overlooking the snowy city, Harrison wrapped his coat around Renee's shoulders. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible. A year ago I was drowning. Hopeless. Exhausted. I couldn't see any way forward." Renee touched his face gently. "Then you got that phone call at 2 a.m. and everything changed. Best call I ever answered. You saved us, Harrison. You saved my mom. You saved me. You gave us our lives back. You saved me too. You just did it quietly over 3 years of working together. You reminded me there was more to life than business. You taught me what love looks like when it's real." Harrison kissed her forehead. "We saved each other. What happens now?" Now we plan a wedding. You start law school. We keep growing Hope Rising. We build a life together one day at a time. We have adventures and quiet mornings and everything in between." "That sounds perfect. Renee, I need you to know something. I don't care where you work or what you do professionally. I don't care if you want to practice law or run a nonprofit or do something completely different. Whatever makes you happy, whatever fulfills you, that's what I want for you. Your dreams are my dreams. And your dreams are mine. We'll support each other. Push each other. Celebrate each other. Partners in everything. Partners in everything, Harrison agreed. I love you. I love you too. So much. They stood there holding each other as snow fell gently around them, the city lights twinkling below. Inside, the last of the gala guests were leaving, the event a resounding success. Hope Rising had raised enough money to help 20 more families in the coming year. Patricia found them on the balcony eventually, wrapped in her coat, smiling. You two lovebirds going to stand out here all night? She teased. Maybe, Renee said. It's so beautiful. Come inside. You're going to freeze. Besides, I want to start planning this wedding. They went inside together, the three of them, a small family bound by love and survival and second chances. They'd all fought so hard to get to this moment. Patricia had fought cancer. Renee had fought exhaustion and despair. Harrison had fought loneliness and emptiness. And they'd all won. 1 year ago, none of them could have imagined this ending. Patricia healthy and independent. Renee about to start law school, engaged to a man who adored her. Harrison no longer alone, no longer just going through the motions, but genuinely happy and purposeful. Life had a funny way of working out when you led with kindness, when you accepted help with grace, when you let love guide your choices. 3 months later, on a warm spring afternoon, Harrison and Renee were married in a small ceremony at Patricia's favorite park. Just close friends, family, and Hope Rising staff. Patricia cried through the entire event, happy tears that celebrated not just the wedding but everything they'd overcome to get there. Renee wore a simple white dress, no veil, just flowers in her hair. Harrison wore a gray suit and looked at his bride like she hung the moon. Their vows were personal, heartfelt, full of promises to support each other's dreams and face challenges together. I promise to always answer late-night phone calls from the hospital, Harrison said, making everyone laugh through their tears. I promise to always accept your help with gratitude, Renee replied. And to remind you that you're more than your bank account. After the ceremony, they held a reception under a tent in the park. There was dancing, laughter, toasts that got everyone emotional. Thomas Chin gave a speech about how Harrison had changed over the past year, how love had softened his edges and brought out his best self. Sharon Rodriguez talked about Renee's tireless work on the foundation, her kindness, her brilliant mind. Patricia gave the final toast. To my daughter and her husband. You've shown me that miracles happen when we're brave enough to ask for help and generous enough to give it. You've shown me that love isn't just romance, it's action, it's showing up, it's fighting for each other. May your marriage be filled with all the joy you've brought to my life. As the sun set and the first stars appeared, Harrison and Renee had their first dance as husband and wife. They moved slowly, savoring the moment, their foreheads touching. Happy, Harrison whispered. Beyond words. You. Happiest day of my life. Well, second happiest. The happiest was the day you said yes. Renee laughed. Smooth talker. Only for you. They danced through several songs, then were joined by other couples. Patricia danced with Thomas Chin, who'd become a family friend. Brenda Walsh danced with her wife. The foundation staff danced together, celebrating not just the wedding but everything Hope Rising represented. By midnight the reception was winding down. Harrison and Renee said their goodbyes, thanked everyone for coming, and drove to the airport. They had a flight to Hawaii in the morning, 2 weeks of honeymoon ahead of them. At the hotel near the airport they collapsed on the bed, exhausted but happy. We did it, Renee said. We're married. Best decision I ever made. Second best, Renee corrected. First best was answering that hospital call. Harrison pulled her close, kissing her deeply. Fair point. That call changed my life. It changed both our lives. They fell asleep that way, wrapped around each other, secure in their love and their future. Tomorrow they'd fly to paradise for 2 weeks of beaches and relaxation. Then they'd come home to their life together. Renee would start her second semester of law school, already excelling in her classes. Harrison would continue running Blake Enterprises while expanding Hope Rising's reach. Patricia would continue her volunteer work in her role as proud mother and cheerleader. They'd face challenges, of course. Life always brought challenges. But they'd face them together with kindness, hope, and love leading the way. Because that's what they'd learned through this journey. That wealth without purpose was empty. That pride could be set aside when survival was at stake. That accepting help was a gift you gave both to yourself and to the giver. That love, real love, was about showing up, about fighting through obstacles, about choosing each other every day. A year ago, Harrison had answered a late-night phone call that changed everything. A terrified message about an accident, about his assistant who'd listed him as her emergency contact, about a life in crisis. He could have sent someone else. He could have kept their relationship strictly professional. He could have offered financial help and nothing more. But he'd chosen differently. He'd chosen to show up, to care, to get involved. He'd chosen to see Renee as a person, not just an employee. He'd chosen to use his resources not just to pay bills but to genuinely change lives. And in doing so, he'd changed his own life just as much. Because the truth was, Renee hadn't just been in that hospital bed needing help. Harrison had been drowning too in his own way. Drowning in loneliness, in emptiness, in a life that looked successful from the outside but felt hollow inside. They'd saved each other. And now they had forever to keep saving each other, every day in 1,000 small ways. The emergency contact had become the emergency. The crisis had become the catalyst. The late-night call had become the call to love. And they'd both answered. 5 years later, Dr. Renee Blake stood at the podium in a crowded conference hall, addressing an audience of healthcare administrators, policymakers, and patient advocates. She graduated from Columbia Law School with honors, passed the bar exam, and now worked full-time as the legal director for Hope Rising, which had expanded to operate in 15 states. Harrison sat in the front row watching his wife with pride and love. Beside him, Patricia beamed, healthy and vibrant at 63, having just celebrated her 5th year cancer-free. When my mother was diagnosed with cancer, Renee said, we faced an impossible choice. Her health or our financial survival. For too many families, that choice is still a reality. But it doesn't have to be. With policy changes, with increased support for nonprofits like Hope Rising, with a commitment to making healthcare accessible, we can ensure that no one has to choose between life and bankruptcy. The speech was powerful, moving, and when Renee finished, the applause was long and loud. She'd become a respected voice in healthcare advocacy, using her personal experience and legal expertise to push for systemic change. After the conference, the three of them had dinner together, a tradition they maintained weekly despite busy schedules. I'm so proud of you, Patricia told Renee. You've taken your pain and turned it into purpose. I learned that from you, Mom. You always taught me to look for the good even in hard times. And I'm proud of both of you, Harrison added. Hope Rising has helped over 300 families now. That's 300 lives saved, 300 futures secured. That's real impact. We did it together, Renee said, taking Harrison's hand. All three of us. A team. Later that night, in the home they'd bought together a few years ago, Harrison and Renee sat on their back porch, watching fireflies in the summer darkness. Do you ever think about that night? Renee asked. The accident, the hospital call, all of it? All the time. It was the night my real life started. Mine too. I was so scared that night. Scared of dying, scared of losing my mom, scared of drowning in debt and exhaustion. I couldn't see any way forward. But you found one. We found one. Together. Renee leaned against Harrison's shoulder. If I could go back and tell that terrified woman in the hospital bed what her life would look like 5 years later, she'd never believe it. Married to the love of her life. Mom healthy. Meaningful work. Dreams fulfilled. It's more than I ever hoped for. You deserved every bit of it. So did you. You deserved to find love, to have purpose beyond business, to build something that matters. They sat in comfortable silence, years of love and understanding between them. Inside, their home was filled with evidence of the life they'd built. Photos from their wedding, their honeymoon, family gatherings. Renee's law degree on the wall. Hope Rising awards and recognition. Patricia's artwork, a hobby she'd taken up during recovery. It was a home built on second chances. On choices made in crisis that turned into blessings. On the belief that kindness, hope, and love should always lead. Harrison's phone buzzed with an email. He glanced at it, smiled, and showed Renee. The foundation just got another major donation. Anonymous donor, but the amount is substantial. We can help 20 more families this quarter. That's wonderful. People are so generous. They see what we're doing and want to be part of it. You've built something special, Renee. Something that will outlast us both. We've built it. Together. Always together. As they sat there, planning the foundation's future, talking about their dreams, simply being together, neither of them took for granted what they had. They'd both been in dark places. They'd both known what it felt like to be hopeless, overwhelmed, alone. And they'd found their way to each other, to this life, to this love. Because Harrison had answered that late-night phone call. Because Renee had accepted help with grace. Because Patricia had fought with everything she had. Because kindness had led them. Because hope had sustained them. Because love had saved them all. And now, 5 years later, they were paying it forward. Helping others find their way out of darkness. giving other families the second chances they'd received. That was the real legacy. Not wealth or success or professional achievement, but lives changed, families saved, hope restored. One late-night phone call at a time. One act of kindness at a time. One choice to lead with love at a time. That was the true happy ending. Not just their story but the ripples of their story. The hundreds of families helped by hope rising. The policy changes Renee was fighting for. The culture shift at Blake Enterprises toward more ethical, people-centered leadership. All because two people chose each other. Chose compassion. Chose to believe that one person with resources and another person in need could come together and create something beautiful. The emergency contact had become the love of his life. The crisis had become the foundation of their purpose. The late-night call had become the beginning of everything. And every night, when Harrison went to sleep beside his wife, her hand in his, Patricia safe and healthy nearby, he sent up a silent thanks for that phone call at 2:17 a.m. The call that had changed absolutely everything. For all of them. Forever.